Switchbacks can be a whole world of pain, and for good reason too, because they're frequently accompanied by loose rocks, unpredictability, and sometimes a whole ton of exposure. Let's have a look then into the complex world of downhill switchbacks. Right, let's start off with technique in switchbacks, the big picture things. So it largely depends on the shape of the terrain and the tightness of the corner. Now, a lot of people think you need some high-level trial skills to do switchbacks, which is totally untrue. By using a wheels on the ground approach and with good line choice, good technique and good braking methods, you can get around ridiculously tight corners. Now we're going to start off with a beautiful pair of switchbacks which have all the ingredients. A really nice arc to the corners, a good incline, a well-defined line, and no collisions to put you off track. Right, let's have a look at the key techniques when approaching this pair of switchbacks. First up, anticipate the corner and get your braking done before you reach the corner, not when you're actually in the middle of it. Now the second part of the movement comes between your braking point and the apex to the corner. In this mid-track position here, you need to start getting your weight down low, moving your centre of gravity down, leaning into the corner, tracking your front wheel and your line. Forget about your back wheel because that'll do whatever it wants to. And then finally, look to your exit, get on the gas quickly, and then you should be hungry for that next set of switchbacks. So look at this, classic French, Italian, Swiss limestone switchback nightmare. And if you think those words were confusing, this terrain is confusing. It has all the elements which add up to disaster. Loose rocks, collisions which you've got to avoid all the way down the track. And usually what happens is the line in is smooth, the line out is a nightmare. So it's got a minefield of stones which is just going to have you over in an instant. Braking really depends on the underlying ground conditions in a switchback. If you have loose rocks, such as these limestone stones in this instance, you dab that front brake and you'll be down in an instant. Now let's face it, switchbacks are actually quite slow corners, so you're not going to be needing to anchor up really quickly. Use the back brake just to drag through the corner. Leave off the front brake so that the front wheel is driving and getting you momentum to get outwards and onwards. Now there's two different schools of thought when it comes to switchbacks. Some riders go for get the bike on the front wheel, move the back wheel round to square the corner off. Others take a wheels on the ground approach by simply slashing through the corner as quickly as possible. I probably go for that approach on a corner such as this. And that's the key thing. Each switchback has its own characteristics. So you need to adopt a certain riding style for each switchback. However, if you take that manual technique through here with all these stones, it's just going to end in disaster. The focus on a corner such as this should be you, your eyes, the fork, the front tyre, the ground underneath you, and driving into it. No fanning about, let the back wheel do whatever it wants, just get out there as quick as you can. But some of the time the conditions allow for a classic switchback scenario just like this one here. Entry speed is really high. The corner is not too tight, it's still pretty tight, it's about 2 bikes length. You've got a good catch berm to give you support on the exit. There's no sniper rocks waiting to have you down mid-corner, and the incline is just about right, which means you're not going to be falling off that cliff edge. But the technique involved is still exactly the same. Remember what I mentioned earlier about staying relaxed in that corner and keeping your flow through the arc. Remember your seat dropper is down, your braking has been done before. Outside pedal is literally down low to the ground and you're really heeling that bike into the corner, trying to dig it into the ground. Your focus is on your handlebars, your fork and your front tyre. That's going to take you round. You're forgetting about that back wheel because that can look after itself. And yeah, like I said, you can just have a load of fun with corners like this. So this really is what gives switchbacks a bad name. Been hammering it downhill for about 4 minutes, almost like a motorway. At the end of it, you've got to do like a 3-point turn at about 1 mile an hour to get round that track which goes back on itself. And really, it's no fault of the track, because let's face it, we are riding ancient kart tracks here. But how do you negotiate it? Well, there's two methods actually. You can either take the classic high line, which is a typical switchback method, or you can come tight and try to do an endo. Either way, it's going to be super slow and really tedious. And so, shortly after one tedious corner comes another one. And let's remember, it's not the fault of the track here. We're talking about ancient tracks which have been here way before the mountain bike, let alone the electric bike. So what do you do? Well, you could either take the trials approach, where you skip the back around, but putting the front brake on goes against everything when it comes to flow. So I'd actually get cross with the last corner, focus on this one. Those three key methods: drive your weight onto the front tire, dig your wheel into the ground, keep your eye on the track, keep your center of gravity low, and find the flow and the momentum around this corner. Remember, this is about a bike's width here, so it really is a switchback, and it goes to prove you don't have to do those trial skills to get around switchbacks. Now, the entry line into the switchback is really critical. As you can see, there's a main line here, which about 99% of riders are taking. However, to the left is another smooth line, which is actually going to open the corner up a touch. Now, if you go to the Alps or the Rockies, you see people progressively getting higher up these entry points to switchbacks, but a lot of the time it's just a bit of fun messing around with the corner. But is it quicker? That's going to depend how fast you can actually ride this corner. So a lot of the time it doesn't improve the speed, it just improves the fun. So this is a prime example of a flowy switchback trail. There's a really good radius to it. There's a great arc to the corner. There's no collisions in the corner to deal with. So all you have to do is just lean it over and rail it through just like you would a berm in a bike park. Now, if we come to the more advanced style switchbacks, a lot of the time people just focus on the flow of the trail, the arc that switchbacks follow, which is all very well and good. However, what if you factor in some big chunky outcrops, some slidey limestone? Then it becomes much more complex. Now, there is actually a line in here which is inside to inside, but if you bear in mind, a lot of the time you're going to be riding these trails blind. That probably is not the line to take, because it could be quite stop-start. So in such a situation, it's actually best to go for the main line, which is the big outside S shape, which actually could give you more flow and ultimately the quickest way through the corners. So there you go, riding switchbacks, mostly found on natural trails, really specific skills to get used to. Key thing is learn how to interpret the trail, because each of those corners are going to be quite different. For more bike riding techniques, the Don has done a great video on how to do drop-offs over here. Meanwhile, I've been back in the woods riding wet cambers, humiliating myself. You can find that one just about here. Yeah, meanwhile, give us a thumbs up if you like this video. I'm heading back to Garda. I've got another 50 switchbacks to do. Yeah, please subscribe to the channel by the globe to see more cool e-bike videos.